As we've seen over the past couple of days, Indiana Jones 5 has been getting absolutely demolished by critics, which in this case really shows how bad this movie probably is. At the moment, it's still sitting at a 52%, which is worse than Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. I believe Crystal Skull has a 77% on Rotten Tomatoes, so that probably shows you how bad this movie must be. You even have sites like IGN who love everything. They gave like episodes of Rings of Power a 10 out of 10. Even they say, we didn't realize how good we had it with Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. And probably the most scathing review is from the Hollywood Reporter, which we will get into in a second. But I think it's worth mentioning to start off with this little BBC review, a gloomy and depressing final act. Now, they mention something down here that may make you reminisce about the good old days of Luke Skywalker in The Last Jedi. You know, that's kind of what we expected with this film, and it seems like that's what we're getting. We're having another character ruined by Kathleen Kennedy, I guess. But as we have here, I'm not sure how many fans want to see Indiana Jones as a broken, helpless old man who cowers in the corner while his patronising goddaughter takes the lead. But that's what we're given, and it's as bleak as it sounds. I think it's worse than what we feared with that one. That he cowers in the corner, broken, helpless old man. Where the fuck have I seen that before? That's right, Luke Skywalker in The Last Jedi. A broken, helpless old man who cowers in the corner. Well, you've got this new character, well, not really a character, that seems to take the lead on everything. So, right, we've seen this before. We've seen it before. That's really not surprising, but let's actually get to the... the Hollywood Reporter's review, which they go quite in depth with it. There isn't any spoilers, although I don't know why you'd be worried about spoilers. Spoilers at this point would just save you money. That's really all I see as any spoilers coming out of this. But we'll start off down here. So, you know, they come off of talking about Mangold's Logan, and essentially, you know, that might not be the best fit for, you know, Indiana Jones. They say maybe the Indiana Jones films, with their appealing combination of laughs and close-shave thrills, built around a rugged, quick-thinking archaeologist in a fedora and a leather jacket, were never going to be a great fit for that kind of gritty treatment, as you know, talking about Logan. But it seemed fair to hope for at least some kind of fresh take beyond the rinse and repeat formula of chases and gunfights strung together in different locations across the globe. Because what this review essentially, how it comes across is, you know, we just get a string of bullshit. Just, oh, here's a thing. Oh, that thing didn't work for you. Here's this thing. And it seems to be that just continuous cycle. There's very little room to breathe, as they do eventually mention. Or even just an invigorating back to basics course correction, which you could have done. You could have just had, reunite him with Short Round, and you go and find Atlantis. You know, something simple that doesn't involve, oh, I know what you need to add to the Indiana Jones franchise. Time travel. Because there's no possible way that we could cock that up. We couldn't mess that up by adding something as complex as that. And I mean, it's the same as Crystal Skulls. You went a bit too far. You went a little bit too far with it. What the new film, scripted by Jez Butterworth, John Henry Butterworth, David Cope, and Mangold, with the feel of something written by committee. That's kind of what you expect from Disney. Too many people, you know, giving their thoughts on it, and you just end up with a big, massive mess. So that's, you know, that just seems pretty obvious to me. Does have is a sweet blast of pure nostalgia in the closing scene. Again, that's really all they've got. Nostalgia. A welcome reappearance foreshadowed with a couple visual clues early on. That heartening return is also suggested by a moment when Harrison Ford's Dr. Jones, yanked out of retirement after 10 years, teaching at New York's Hunter College. He's also divorced and his kid's gone. Great. Stops to reflect on the personal mistakes of his past. That all that really does is just lend credence to the idea that he's going to be berated about how, oh, you stole from a load of indigenous people. That seems like what way it may go, especially with that he reflects on his personal mistakes. You know, I guess that could mean a lot of things, but I mean, in the trailer, they've already went capitalism is bad. They've already went that route. So I wouldn't be surprised if he gets pulled up. You shouldn't have been taking all these treasures to put in a museum because you wanted people to see them. You were stealing from, at this point, the title may as well be Indiana Jane and the Trial of Reparations. That seems like a more fitting title for what I'm expecting out of this. We've even seen rumors about that is the case. And I wouldn't be surprised if it is in there. Which is pretty much the first time the movie pauses for breath, and it happens an hour and 20 minutes into the bloated 2.5-hour runtime. We had to drag the fucking arse out of it. So, yeah, it seems like it's just, a string of set pieces, and that just goes on and on and on. We just add more bullshit onto it with time travel, like we needed that. That non-stop pacing might sound ideal, but it's mostly an exhausting slog. I mean, it will be, you could have all these set pieces, but I imagine what we're going to be left with is a load of, things happening that don't make any sense at all. That there hasn't really, there's no logic been played into it. When Dial of Destiny gives an explicit throwback nod to earlier episodes, from what it mentions in here, we actually get, flashbacks to the good films. The films that are the only films in this franchise that we needed. They show them on screen. I don't know why. Indy remembering drinking the blood of Kali, enduring voodoo torture, or getting shot 9 times. That, again, why would you have, the actual scenes from the original movies? That just seems a very cheap play to get people in based on nostalgia. As people are watching it going, actually, it's all right because I've seen the good scenes from Indiana Jones. That seems to me like what it is. I mean, you don't have to flash back. It's like we've seen the films. You don't really need to go that far with it. Or he and his new companion squeezing through a narrow stone corridor and discovering midway that it's alive with creepy crawlies. It's a reminder of how much fun those early movies were, and still are, despite some eyebrow-raising calm down, Hollywood Reporter, racist characters that belong to a simpler, less culturally sensitive time. Part of what dims the enjoyment of this concluding chapter is just how glaringly fake so much of it looks. I mean, again, you go back to the trilogy. It was all practical effects. The idea that for this type of movie, I mean, you brought back an 80-year-old Harrison Ford. That's the most pointless thing I've ever heard of when you have to de-age him. Even in the scenes, I believe, where it's, as he is now, they still, de-age him somewhat. So everything, I imagine every single part of this film is going to be just CGI. It's going to look shit. People are bored of it because, it's just so obvious that it's there. It's never done in a good way. It's never done in the way that CGI should be used, and just to, make things look a little better. Not just have the entire thing CGI. So I don't think people are going to respond well to that, especially when you don't need to. But again, you brought back an 80-year-old. I don't really know why. So that's just par for the course for Disney. I believe some reviews I read said the CGI is worse than The Little Mermaid. the live action they're doing for that. Ford is digitally and convincingly de-aged in an opening sequence that finds him back among the Nazis at the end of the World War II, because we haven't done Nazis before. Hitler has already fled to his bunker, and Gestapo gold diggers are preparing for defeat by loading up a plunder train full of priceless antiquities and various stolen loot. Scurrying to save himself and rescue his professional Brit pal Basil Shaw, Indy ends up in a death match with a Third Reich heavy on top of the train as it speeds through a long mountain pass. But any adrenaline rush that the extended set piece might have generated is killed by the ugly distraction of some truly terrible CG backgrounds. Again, it's just par for the course for current Disney. The CGI is fucking terrible. You know, I would rather just go back to the days where no CGI gets used at all. That would honestly be more preferable than what we're seeing at the moment. The CGI is just not good. Whereas, you know, you look at a film like Dune and how the special effects are done in there. They look fucking brilliant. You can't even tell. Whereas you get a Disney one and it's just like, oh, that's obviously CGI. And it's just something that for a lot of people just pulls them completely out of the movie. But not surprising. It's just the lazy way. You know, it's just used lazily. The foundation of this series are in Spielberg's overgrown kid playfulness with practical effects. The more the films have come to rely on digital paintbrush, the less hair-raising their adventures have become. I mean, again, if you're using real sets with real people, again, it just makes it a whole lot better. Whereas if it's just, oh, everything's CGI, why should I really invest or care when it's just everything is just CGI, just soulless? When you can just build a set. I mean, the amount of money they've spent on this film, you couldn't be bothered to build a fucking set. $300 million, and you've got shitty looking CGI. When you could have used that money for really good, real practical effects. The amount of wasted money these days. And another problem here is the tendency to overcomplicate everything. That starts with the red herring of the opening scenes, the lance of Longinus, said to have pierced the side of Christ on the cross. A whole lot of talk about this holy relic turns out to be mere distraction until we get to the real treasure. Archimedes, so yeah, they waste a bit of time. That's always good. Archimedes' dial, a device believed to hold the power to locate fissures in time. I'm still not even sure what the fuck that means. I don't know. I've had to Google it, because a fissure was a fissure in time. I guess it's some sort of split or crack in time. That's the gist of it. But yeah, that's what the Indiana Jones franchise needed. Time travel. No, it was in fact Mangold thought, can't come up with a good fucking idea, so let's just throw time travel in there. You know, when you could keep it very simple. You go back to the original trilogy. They're very simple films. They're very straightforward. And now we've had to go, well, aliens weren't enough, so let's add on time travel. The best Indiana Jones movies all have a supernatural element. Yeah, they do. They just don't go as overcomplicated with it. So why not time travel? Well, you see why in the messy climactic stretch. Again, it's just whenever. That's why we end up with so many, so many bad movies these days, is because they think the way to have a good movie is it must be really, really complex. And when your script is more complex, there is more room for error. So that's why it's not going to make any fucking sense, is it? It's going to be very frustrating. They're going to be very vague on how the rules work. And the rules that they do set, they won't stick to it. You know, that's just what we see with these overcomplicated films these days. The bulk of the action takes place in 1969, when Indiana feels the strain even getting up out of his recliner. I mean, I've seen that. The start of one of the trailers was him in his boxer shorts on the couch. Like, clearly, he's going for a bad patch. His wife has divorced him. It's great, isn't it? It's just great. And Ford commendably shrugs off vanity, making no effort to hide his age. The unexpected return into his life of the late Basil's daughter, Helena, a new character that we definitely needed. Again, we couldn't have just went, let's get Short Round. You know, he's been making the rounds, doing a lot more films at the moment. Why don't we get that guy? That would be a very nice reunion, wouldn't it? A lot of fans will love that. No, we had to go, get Phoebe Waller-Bridge, a brand new character no one's ever fucking heard of, and she's just an annoying cow. Let's get her. That will go down well with audiences. Whom Indy hasn't seen since her childhood. Yeah, I know, we've never heard of her. Never been mentioned before. But yeah, apparently she's just existed this whole time. Revives thoughts of Archimedes' golden double discus gizmo and whether its purported properties might actually work. Helena claims to have chosen the legendary doodad as the subject of her doctorate thesis. The dial was split in half by its inventor to avoid it slipping into the wrong hands, or to help flesh out a laborious new installment requiring multiple destinations. So yeah, that's probably the reason for it. They can waste a bit of time, try and get that time up to 2.5 hours, because that's what we've got to do for every film now, isn't it? Every film must be over 2 hours, and I got to be honest, it's pissing me off at this point. Especially when it's shit movies. You know, if you've got a Lord of the Rings on your hands, I'd be happy for a 12-hour film. But when it's just, you know, utter dog shit, it does not need to be 2.5 hours long. You're really pushing it. But that's just what we see at the moment. Every film is that long, and most of them just have got no reason to be that long. So that seems like what we're getting. They're gonna, you know, just to this destination and this destination and this destination. So half of it sits in an archaeological vault, courtesy of Dr. Jones, and the other half lies in parts unknown. But Helena isn't the only one interested. It also brings Nazi physicist Dr. Jürgen Voller Mads Mikkelsen, who had a previous brush with Indy 25 years ago, out of hiding. He's been living under an alias and working for the NASA space program, developing technology that took the Apollo 11 mission to the moon. Turns out he changed his name, but not his political persuasion. So going back in time would allow him to correct history. So I guess so he just wants to get rid of the Apollo 11 mission. Is that the only thing, or is it, oh, I want the Nazis to win? I really don't know. Helena, whose intentions are not what they seem, hops a flight to Tangiers with half the dial, reconnecting with her junior associate Teddy and setting up a private auction to sell the relic to the highest bidder. Indiana follows to stop her, and she's if she's gonna leave it. And she's unapologetic about valuing cash above all else. And then she complains about capitalism after valuing cash above all else. That seems a bit contradictory. But as the half-disc slips from one set of hands into another, they all end up trying to outrun Voller and his vicious goons. And you have an 80-year-old man hopping fucking cars, going at, I don't know, about 60 miles an hour. It's just fucking hilarious, isn't it? Following clues to locate the missing half and test drive Archimedes' invention. Mangold goes from one set piece to another. That's kind of my guess. If you keep it going as fast as possible, you don't give people time to actually think about it. Without much connective tissue, they include a chase on horseback and motorcycle through the streets of Manhattan with an 80-year-old man that crashes through, because that's believable, isn't it? That crashes through an anti-Vietnam protest and an Apollo 11 welcome home ticker tape parade before continuing in the subway tunnels. There's also a frantic flight in Moroccan tuk-tuks with an 8-year-old man, and a dive to the bottom of the sea off the coast of Greece to find a coded guide to Archimedes' tomb. By that time, you'll likely have given up following the contorted plot mechanics and just be zoning in and out with each new location. Or maybe you'll spend time wondering what drew third build Antonio Banderas to such an insignificant role as Ronaldo. Yeah, I mean, you don't bring Antonio in and give him a, an insignificant role. Indy's old fisherman buddy, whose driving expertise provides a crucial assist while getting Indy into a tangle with a bunch of outsized CG eels so sloppily rendered that Disney can relax about any Little Mermaid sniping. So it was this article that said the CG is worse than the Little Mermaid. Fucking hell. Again, $300 million. Jesus Christ. Ronaldo has a crew stacked with male models who have bodies that didn't exist in the late 60s, which seems an intriguing detail, though he's not around long enough to shed light on it. Sadly, none of this amounts to much more than a talented director slumming it with mind-numbingly rote video game plotting. That isn't good. I mean, it's as I say, you can have, whenever it comes to Disney, whether it is Lucasfilm, Marvel, they may get these like really talented, directors, but what say do they actually have? Because I think it's very little. It's as it says in this review, that it seems like it's, very much made by committee. It'll be, Kathleen Kennedy's going, I want this in. Another person's going, I want this in. And I think so you can have as talented as a director as possible, and you're still going to end up with shit because they haven't actually been given free reign. Very similar to Sam Raimi with Multiverse of Madness. What decisions did he actually make? That's none. And I think the same pretty much goes for Lucasfilm. I mean, we've seen it with Kathleen Kennedy when it comes to Star Wars, that she was saying, no, you can't do that. And in fact makes something worse. So I think it's going to be a very similar thing here. Waller-Bridge makes Helena quick with a wisecrack, handy with her fists. I can only imagine you're going to have, skinny little Waller-Bridge flinging about 10-ton men. That's probably what you're going to get. And a demon behind the wheel. And as is Daruga in these less restrictively gender-coded times, she's unflappably resourceful, never helpless. She actually tells us that in the movie. If you've seen the recent clip they put out, she says, I'm resourceful. Hey, audience, I'm a resourceful person. So they're probably not going to show us any of this. It's just going to be Phoebe Waller-Bridge going, I'm resourceful. Never helpless, but only toward the end when Helena has put aside her mercenary instincts. Mercenary instincts. I thought this is like a college graduate, and she's got a mercenary instinct. Long enough to show genuine concern and affection for Indiana, her godfather. Does the chemistry between Waller-Bridge and Ford yield some pleasure? Mikkelsen can be fabulously debonair villain. Again, they're going to waste Mikkelsen. He's great as a villain. I don't think he's going to be a good villain in this. I think the performance will be there, but the writing won't, or the characterization won't. I don't think there's going to be much to it. But any interesting idiosyncrasies the character might have exhibited are drowned in convoluted plot. This calls for a larger-than-life bad guy, and he's somehow smaller. Filling the plucky young sidekick spot, Isadore's Teddy is, well, let's just say he's no short round and leave it at, so it seems like they're trying to replicate short round. Why the fuck didn't you just get short round? Rather than going, oh, here's Teddy. Helena fucking whatever her name's assistant. Right, okay. This is a big bombastic movie that goes through the motions, but never finds much joy in the process. Despite John Williams' hard-working score, continuously pushing our nostalgia buttons, and trying to convince us we're on a wild ride. Indy ignores the inevitable jokes about his age, and proves he can still handle himself in a tight spot. He's 80. But Ford often seems disengaged, as if he's weighing up whether this will restore the tarnished luster to his iconic action hero, or reveal that he's past his expiration date. Both the actor and the audience get a raw deal with this empty exercise in brand redemption. So that is the entire review of the Hollywood Reporter. That does not sound good. That sounds really, really bad. You know, I'm going to be breaking this film down. I think it's going to take hours. They've added time travel. You know, that tends to go really bad because they don't really think it through. So I'm not going to be surprised if it takes 4 hours to break this film down. It does sound like it. It does really. So that's like seems to be the most scathing review of this film that actually goes quite in depth with it. And I mean that this stuff here is just that's just a cherry on top. That's all that is. You know, a broken, helpless old man who cowers in the corner while his patronising goddaughter takes the lead. That's just what I expected. I expected it to go the route of Star Wars like they did with Luke Skywalker. I thought, yeah, why wouldn't they also do it with Indiana Jones? So, you know, so far by these reviews, it is not sounding good. That this part here just makes it a whole lot worse. You know, it's not something that fans want to see. You know, they want to see it, you know, if it's, even though I don't think, you know, we don't need an Indiana Jones film. It's like that trilogy was perfect as it is. We didn't need the fourth one. We definitely didn't need this one, but that is what they've decided to do. And it's, yeah, you know, you're not going to give a good send off from what it sounds like. It sounds to me like the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. That's definitely a better send off than what we're going to get here. You know, in the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, you know, he gets married, you know, that's the end of his story. He rides off into the sunset with his bride. It's a nice little ending there. Not a very good film, but it's got a nice little ending. Whereas this, it seems like it's just him, you know, a broken, helpless. Who wants to see that? Nobody wants to see that, yet that's, you know, that's what you're going to do with it. You know, again, just fucking clueless. Absolutely clueless. As I say, it's going to be interesting how well this film does, because, you know, I question it, really. I think with all these bad reviews, you know, again, this may be I think it might open well on its first weekend. I don't think it's going to have legs. I think as soon as word of mouth gets about, I don't think it's going to quite make the money that they want or expect. I hope it doesn't, you know, if it is shit, I really hope it doesn't make money, because then we probably are going to get that Disney Plus series, aren't we? That seems more than likely, and that's, you know, that's going to star Phoebe Waller-Bridge. That's probably it. That would probably be it. But yeah, so far this film isn't looking good. Again, my prediction is it's going to be absolutely dog shit. That is my prediction of this entire movie. But there, we've kind of went into it quite in depth to really get a feel for what this movie is. Indiana Jones is a broken, helpless old man. Get in. That's what the fans want. That is what the fans always wanted out of an Indiana Jones film.